And John Taylor is here. He's just released a new book called In the Pleasure Groove, Love, Death, and Duran Duran. Good morning.
All the big issues.
That's right.
Love, death,
And
storms.
Duran Duran. Storms.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hope you're not flying anywhere today.
I am actually, but
Are you?
the other direction.
Okay,
so
so
you'll be
you're all
okay.
right
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
So I've been mentioning this morning that you and I were together at Indigo last night over at the
Yeah.
Manulife. You did a book
Yeah.
signing. And, you know, here we are. When did Duran Duran have their first hit? 1981?
Yep.
So here we're 30-some years on, and the people are packed in there.
It was good, wasn't it?
It was
Yeah,
great.
they were great. The fans are fantastic, and they've really been. I think it's been revitalized the last couple of years. Actually, you know, it's the last album really connected with the fans, and they've been super sort of supportive of this book project.
Why now? After all these years, was it the right time to tell the story? And you get pretty candid. You're pretty honest in that book.
Yeah, well, it was the right time. I mean, my dad passed away, coming up on 3 years. I sold the house that I grew up in. I mean, that really started the creative process of writing and thinking, particularly about, growing up. Then I was approached at the beginning of last year. There's been a bit of a rush on with rock memoirs lately.
Yeah,
and I was told that if it was something, if I wanted to do it, it would be a good time. And then Simon lost his voice last summer, and we cancelled 3 months of shows, like the night before the tour was due to start. So I thought, what am I going to do? I'm going to do that book.
How did you find that process?
I loved it,
Really?
actually. I had a guy working with me. I don't think I could have done it alone, but I had a guy working with me. He kept me moving. I mean, it's quite a privilege, actually, to get to really go through your life in that way.
Right.
I enjoy, I like writing, and yeah, I mean, it was a good experience, quite humbling in a way.
I mean, was your recall good?
Yeah, total recall. Well, I'm not big on facts, as I explained last night. I'm going for impressions more than anything.
Right.
A lot of people have said to me that you got that date wrong, and you got, but I think it was more about getting the spirit of the times as opposed to specifics.
Yeah, it's you don't need to lay it out like an anthology or anything like that.
I don't think so. That other people can do that.
Yeah.
So you're one of the most iconic bands, without question. When you look back at those days, the early days, and the evolution, what are your memories?
Well, it was an incredible time. I mean, it was a great time for the band. It was a great time for music, actually. And one of the things I wanted to write about was the early '80s. It's sort of transition from the '70s. It's sort of an underappreciated period in music and pop culture, I think. So I was quite excited to write about that. I didn't write about the whole sweep of the band. I didn't feel that was my role, but I did write about the first few years, and I mean, it was incredibly exciting. We took an incredibly exciting ride, but we worked hard, man. Yeah. And I mean, part of what the book does, it demystifies that whole fame thing. It's like you got to really want it. You got to really be prepared to work hard. And a little chemistry helps.
When you have the fame, it's how you handle it as well, right? That's the big challenge.
Well, yeah, and everybody handles it differently, and that's where you really learn. I mean, you've got 5 guys that essentially look so similar. They come from such similar backgrounds. I always used to marvel at the houses that we all came from. We're almost identical, these little semi-detached suburban houses. All 5 of us came from very, very similar backgrounds. But there were nuances. One guy had 2 brothers. One guy would be an only child. One guy had this. And we all responded to the fame quite differently. I was the one without the off switch.
Right, which you're very
Oh,
open
I thought
about.
you might pick up on that.
Hello. Which you're very open about in the book, where you try to deal with that in a number of different ways, whether it was drugs, and that was an addiction that you battled for a long time.
Yes.
And was it the fame? Was it the loneliness? What was it?
Well, as I say, it was like not having the off switch, and I was the guy that just didn't know when to say no. And, I went through rehab. I wanted to write about that because that was such a profound experience for me. And I wanted to try to put that down. They taught me that it wasn't my fault, that it was just the way that, that I metabolized alcohol. Some people are like that, apparently.
But you're still around.
My God, yes. The band, you mean?
Well, no, you as an individual. I mean, look at how many people in that profession succumb to these addictions.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I got the golden ticket, to be honest with you.
It's like the toss of the dice in a way, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you feel like, well, okay, the universe wants me here, because I could have definitely,
Checked out.
Yep.
You took a lot of criticism when you were so successful so quickly.
Yeah.
A lot of rock critics were just strafing Duran Duran.
Yes. strafing is the word. Well, I think because we were a people's band. We are a people's band. We never needed the critics to sort of tell the audience, you need to buy this. We found an audience right away.
Right.
And I don't think they like that. I think the gatekeepers like to feel like they're the arbiters. They tell the people what's good and what's not good, but nobody had to do that with Duran Duran.
Now, during the band's heyday, at the peak of fame, with your title, you wrote Love, Death, and Duran Duran. What was the most important thing to you at that time, and how has it changed?
Well, I mean, you were just trying to hold on to the horse at that point. I mean, in Toronto, like going back to Maple Leaf Gardens when we shot the Reflex video, and it was absolute madness. There's a picture in the book actually that I found. I couldn't believe it. I've got this oxygen mask on my face. It's like backstage. I mean, it was really, really intense. And you're just trying to hold on. And I think you can only handle that for so long. I think most people sort of like step aside. You don't want to be. It's like driving really fast. It's fun for a minute, but then you want to just calm down and just.
How's the relationship now with you and the rest of the band? You write that you were as tight as a family could be, and then you hit some bumpy times. Where are you guys now?
It's really strong, I mean, it really helps to have a record that you're proud of. The last album that we did, Mark Ronson produced, and he tapped into something that we made an album we were proud of, that the fans really liked. So we did almost 18 months of touring behind that album. I'm glad I got to write the book, while the feeling in the band was so strong and so positive. I had no inclination to diss anybody, put anybody down. There's no revenge in there. I mean, if I'd have written it 10 years ago, it would have been different. But we've had a really good time. We've evolved. Our relationships have evolved. They're really strong.
Did you hesitate at all to put anything in the book?
Well, you've got to. I mean, you don't want it to just be another interview. It's got to. I mean, I find that when you're with the band, we kind of have a party line. We're like a political party. We have a party line, and nobody really has a personal opinion. The opinion is the band's opinion, and it was nice to get to write the book and say, well, actually, this is my perception. This is my truth. And I have to be very clear that it's nobody else's. And any, Simon or Nick would write a very different book.
Well, it's a great, great read on so many levels. It takes you back, you can reminisce, but also because, again, you're so candid, it's going to be really eye-opening to a lot of people as well, I think. In the Pleasure Groove, Love, Death, and Duran Duran. John Taylor, thank you so much.
Thanks, Liza.
Just a pleasure.